The snow fell in thick, relentless sheets that December night, turning the Chicago streets into a frozen wasteland. Marcus Chen gripped his daughter Lily's hand tighter as they hurried toward their parked car, his expensive wool coat doing little against the biting wind. He was exhausted from another 16-hour day at his tech company, his mind already racing through tomorrow's board meeting, when Lily suddenly stopped dead in her tracks. "Please help her, Daddy," his 7-year-old whispered, her voice cracking with emotion. Marcus followed her gaze to a narrow alley between two buildings. There, huddled against a dumpster beneath a flimsy cardboard box, sat a girl who couldn't have been more than 16. Her lips had taken on a frightening blue tint, and her thin jacket was so inadequate it might as well have been paper. She wasn't even shivering anymore, which Marcus knew from his college first aid training was a terrible sign. Every logical part of his brain screamed at him to keep walking. He had a daughter to protect, a company demanding his attention, and getting involved in strangers' problems had never been his style. Since his wife Sarah died 3 years ago, he'd built walls around himself and Lily, focusing solely on providing financial security and keeping their small family unit safe. The world was dangerous, unpredictable, and full of people who would take advantage of kindness. But Lily's hand slipped from his grasp, and before he could stop her, she was running toward the girl. Miss, are you okay?" Marcus's heart lurched into his throat. He rushed after his daughter, ready to pull her back, but then he saw the girl's face up close. Her brown eyes flickered open, glazed and unfocused, and he realized with shocking clarity that she was dying. Right there, in an alley in one of America's wealthiest neighborhoods, a child was freezing to death while thousands of people walked past. "Call 911, he heard himself say, already shrugging off his coat and wrapping it around the girl's frail shoulders. "Lily, get back to the car and call 911. Tell them we need an ambulance immediately." The girl tried to speak, but only a raspy whisper emerged. "No hospital, can't pay." "That doesn't matter right now," Marcus said firmly, rubbing her arms to generate warmth. "We're getting you help." The ambulance arrived within minutes, and Marcus found himself riding with the girl while his assistant came to collect Lily. At the hospital, he paced the emergency room waiting area, unsure why he felt so compelled to stay. He didn't even know her name. She was just another statistic in a city full of homeless youth, and he had a company to run, a daughter to care for, responsibilities that couldn't be ignored. He was about to leave when a doctor emerged. "Are you family?" "No, I found her." The doctor's expression softened. "She has severe hypothermia and malnutrition. Another hour and we would have lost her. You saved her life." He hesitated. "She's awake and asking for you. Says her name is Emma Rodriguez." Marcus entered the room to find Emma propped up against pillows, looking impossibly small in the hospital bed. She was hooked up to various monitors, but her eyes were clear now, and filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "You didn't have to do that." Something in her voice, a dignity beneath the desperation, made Marcus sit down. "What happened to you, Emma? Where's your family?" The story spilled out haltingly. Emma had aged out of foster care at 18 with nowhere to go. She'd been working 2 jobs while attending community college, trying to become a nurse, but a series of misfortunes, a stolen paycheck, an abusive roommate, a car breakdown, had sent her spiraling. She'd been on the streets for 3 weeks, too proud to ask for help, too exhausted to find a way out. "I wanted to be someone who helps people," she said, staring at her hands. "Instead, I became someone who needs help. I'm so ashamed." Marcus thought about his own journey. He'd built a billion-dollar company from nothing, priding himself on being self-made, never asking for handouts. But he'd also had opportunities Emma never did, a stable home, parents who could afford his college education, connections that opened doors. He'd been lucky, and he'd mistaken that luck for superiority. Looking at this brave girl who'd been trying so hard to build something from nothing, he made a decision that defied every logical business instinct he'd honed over the years. "I'm going to help you," he said. "Not charity. An investment. You want to be a nurse. I'll cover your education, but I expect you to work for it. You'll intern at my company's medical clinic, and you'll graduate with honors." "Deal." Emma stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. "Why would you do that for me?" "Because my daughter reminded me tonight that we're supposed to help each other," Marcus said simply. "And because I think you're going to do extraordinary things." Over the next 4 years, Emma became part of their lives in ways Marcus never anticipated. She moved into their guest house, and Lily gained the big sister she'd always wanted. Emma worked tirelessly, attending nursing school during the day and helping at the company clinic at night. She brought laughter back into their home, teaching Lily to bake her grandmother's recipes and reminding Marcus that success meant nothing if you didn't share it. Emma graduated top of her class and became a nurse practitioner specializing in homeless healthcare. She opened a mobile clinic that served the very streets where she'd once nearly died, and Marcus's company became one of its major sponsors. Then one ordinary Tuesday morning, Marcus collapsed in his office. The diagnosis was swift and merciless: acute heart failure. He needed a transplant immediately, but his rare blood type and tissue markers made finding a match nearly impossible. As he lay in the ICU, watching Lily's terrified face through the window, Marcus felt the bitter irony. He'd saved a life once, but he couldn't save his own. Emma appeared at his bedside that evening, her expression determined. "I'm getting tested as a donor." "Absolutely not," Marcus said weakly. "You're not risking your life for me." "You didn't hesitate to risk yours for mine," Emma replied. "That night in the alley, you could have kept walking. You could have let me die because helping was inconvenient, because I was a stranger, because you had more important things to do. But you didn't. You taught me that we save each other. Now let me save you." The testing revealed what seemed impossible: Emma was a perfect match. The transplant surgery was risky, but both pulled through. As Marcus recovered, Emma in the bed next to him, he finally understood what his wife Sarah had tried to tell him before she died. Wealth isn't measured in bank accounts but in the lives we touch and the love we share. A year later, at Emma's wedding to another doctor from the homeless clinic, Marcus stood to give a toast. Lily, now 12 and wise beyond her years, squeezed his hand as he began to speak. "4 years ago, my daughter taught me the most important lesson of my life," he said, his voice carrying across the joyful crowd. "She taught me that we're at our best when we help each other, even when it's inconvenient, even when we're scared." Emma didn't just receive help that night, she reminded me what it means to be human. And then she gave me a second chance at life, just as I'd given her one. That's the beautiful circle we create when we choose kindness over indifference. He raised his glass, tears streaming down his face. To Emma, who froze in an alley and rose to save lives. "Thank you for teaching me that the greatest investment isn't in companies or stocks but in each other." As the guests cheered and Emma embraced him, Marcus caught sight of their reflection in the window, a family forged not by blood but by choice, by compassion, by the simple act of stopping when someone needed help. Outside, snow began to fall again, but inside there was only warmth, love, and the knowledge that kindness always comes home.